Good morning, world, friends, family. Welcome to another episode of the But Moments of God. I'm Samis Debbie Thurston. And today, my special guest is Miss Aida Ashe. And I just want to say this. It's amazing how we all wear masks. Some people can be sitting right across from us. You've been friends 15, 20 years, and you don't know them. Today is the day that this lady is going to share her testimony. And if I cry, trust me, it is what it is. But I just want her to get some release. And she said God told her that she would come on this show after we did a taping 2 weeks ago here at this beautiful studio, Lead Life Studios in Tampa, the best. And as she was driving, she said God spoke to her and told her she would be on this show. It was time for her to let go of all the hurt, all the pain that she's been carrying for the past, she's 65 now, so probably about 40 years wearing a mask. And today I just want this message to be a blessing to someone out there who's listening. And without further ado, Miss Aida, how are you, my love?
I'm good.
You're good.
I just can't explain. I feel at peace. There's moments where there's doubt, but no, that's it. I'm not going to let doubt anymore. And I just want to, my testimony, I wanted to reach somebody that's gone through. Because it doesn't matter if you've been abused, addiction, an abortion, infidelity, it does not matter.
Right.
I can speak here because I used to cry all the time, and I said, God, I can't cry like this every time and give my testimony. So little by little, he's been just like
filling you and
me,
strengthening
yes,
you.
and strengthening
right.
me, yes.
And, you know, yesterday we had a conversation, and before we were halfway through, I was in tears. She's crying, and all we could do is just pray.
Yes.
So we had to break the whole talk down into segments in order for us to get through. And the first part is we said the lie.
The lie. So the lie was growing up, I was told that my older brother and I had the same father. Which was not. My mother finally told me later on in my 30s, you know, that we didn't have the same father. But I grew up feeling like
less than,
and like I didn't belong. Like even when she would introduce us as her children, they would look at everybody, and then they would look at me
differently,
and they were like, something.
Right, because you look different.
Yeah, I remember feeling.
Like you did not belong.
Like I didn't belong.
Right.
Yeah,
and you told me that you never met your real father until you were 45
Until I was 45. Because that lie separated my father. Yeah, so my father's family didn't really want anything to do with me.
you.
Yes.
Right. So, and you said you found out when you had your first child.
Well, when I had my firstborn child.
Right. We'll get into that. Okay. Yes. Okay. And this is the part that really made me hurt, when she told me she was sexually abused at 6 years old. And she said her mother knew, but nobody said anything. And it went on, the neighbor, and it took a stranger. You go.
Yes, it took a young girl. She was a friend of my brother's. An Asian young girl, and I knew I was young because I remember her looking down at me and talking to me, and she see me coming, because they were cousins. It was Maria, and I couldn't remember his name, but I asked God to bring me his name. His name was Lajo, and the family knew them, and she would lure me
into the building.
He would take me into the building. And one time coming out, that's when the Asian girl was there, and she saw me because she knew my brother, and she must have known us too. But she asked me, you know, did he hurt me? And I said, well, he tells me to go into this building, and she said, do me a favor, don't ever go in there again. And then I remember that was the end of.
That
They would
right.
call me over, and I would just say
Yes.
no.
And then you later,
Yes,
you said you found out later that his sister was abusing your
but had
brother,
abused my brother.
and that made him so promiscuous.
Yes,
And
yeah, 'cause
I'm
that's what sexual abuse is.
right,
It does.
and I did research that, and it
Yes,
says most children who are sexually abused become so very promiscuous
yes,
as they go through
yes.
life, and that's why I always remember my mother saying this: "Do never look down on that man,
Mm,
except you're going to compliment his shoes."
yes.
And I always say never judge someone
Yes.
except
Right.
you know what's behind the action. Try and find out first. And we go into that. We just delve into this later where we talk about abuse. You were abused
Yes.
by your mother.
So
That is something
that
you didn't want to speak about because so many
yes.
people saw her and loved
Because so
her.
many people, all these women here, loved my mother. So
Yes,
it was hard. I did, and he had to get me through that because to God, I don't want to per se, perceive her as a
bad
because
person.
they loved her and they
Right.
loved her spirit, her spicy
Yes.
spirit. They
Right.
did it.
Right.
So the first abuse that I remember, there was an elderly lady that lived. We still lived on the same street. She would feed,
The
and don't do
pigeons
this because you can't feed pigeons rice anymore. Uh, but she was throwing rice. To
for
the
the pigeons,
pigeons.
right? You
So I
told
said,
me.
oh, and so my stepfather had bought a big sack of rice. And so I said, okay. So I got a cup. I started throwing rice out the window, and all these pigeons were everywhere. And then I looked, and I said, oh, the sack of rice was almost empty. So I got a feeling that I was in trouble.
Trouble,
So
right?
my mother was down the street, and she saw it. She said she thought it was snowing. That's how much rice I
Throwing the
was throwing.
rice, right?
So
Right.
when she came up, she asked me,
What you did, and you told
yeah, and I
her.
told her, well, I seen this lady throwing rice to
So
the
you
pigeons, so I started feeding them. But my mother's anger would go from like 10 to
do 100.
100. So,
And you told me
yes,
one time she beat you so bad she beat you
that
unconscious.
was the first. That was the first
First
time. So
beating,
I
right?
ran under the bed. I got under the bed, and she would go one way, I would go the other way, but I remember being so scared. Then she took little brown pieces of paper and
Lit
lit
it
them
a
on fire to try to get me out. Boy, I was just blowing them out, and then after a while, she got to the end of the bed, and I remember her lifting that
yeah.
bed up, and I knew right there that,
That
yeah.
was it, right? And
So I don't know who got me out from under there, but after that, all I could remember was my aunt and her standing over me, and my aunt asking, "Was I gonna be okay?" And then
that was it.
that was the
Right,
first of
and the
my
beatings went
physical
on and
abuse.
on and on and on and on.
Yes, yeah.
Right? Mm,
So
wow. And we also discussed something that's so hard. You said by the time you were 19, you'd already had 3 abortions.
by the time I was yes, by the time it was like and I had to. I went to a training with Naomi, but so they asked me they sent me a
The
form. I
list,
had to,
right?
yeah, and trying to remember the years. I kind of remember by the age, but when I had to write it down,
It
it's like,
became real.
yes, it became real, and I couldn't do it. It took me a week to finally, because I had to fill it out to be able to do this next
Right.
part of my healing. Um, but it just seemed like every year, because back then they told you it
It
wasn't
wasn't
a
a baby,
baby, and that
right?
was a lie. So
Right,
that is a
right.
lie from Satan. Once those two eggs form, that's it. It's a baby.
Yes, it
It's a
is.
baby.
Right.
But later on, I'm
You
listening
told
to
me
this.
about the dream a gentleman had.
Yeah, no, God, he was in a bad accident, a real rich man, but he didn't share his money. And then God took him to heaven and showed him around. The angels were showing him around. And he saw a big white building, and he asked, so what's that building for? And the angel told him, that's where we take care of all the aborted babies.
Okay. So
So then right there and there, I knew that my
your
babies.
babies were okay. Your 3 babies. And
And then
God,
I'll see them.
yes, yes.
I'll
And
see
God
them.
gave you 4 kids.
And then God gave me 4 kids.
You have 4 beautiful children
Yes,
and
yes.
4 beautiful grandkids. So God,
Yes.
God still vindicated you, and He gave you
Yes, he
love,
did. He did.
and and we also talked about this. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
You're going through, because I know how hard it is being
Yes.
pregnant. I almost died with my first
Yeah.
child, so I
Oh,
couldn't
yeah.
imagine, taking
Mm.
yeah. But you said when you got married, you went into it with the pretext that you would only stay married for 5 years,
5 years. Yes. Yeah.
and to date you were married for 41. But within that time, a lot of things happened,
Yes.
and you were working for the bank, and you said because of all the things that you went through, there were two Adas:
Yes.
Ada by day, the banker, and
Mm-hmm.
Ada by night, the crackhead.
Yes. Because then I got into drugs. Yeah. I
Right.
started experimenting with marijuana when I was around 15. And then
Wow.
from there, they grew to
Real
cocaine.
cocaine, crack
Yes.
cocaine.
And then the addiction was really bad. It was really bad.
Right,
Yes.
right.
So that went
Like,
on for a couple of years.
hmm
Um, yes.
Well, you said
Yeah.
about 6 years that
About
went
6 years.
on,
That went on.
and
Yes.
this was during your marriage,
That.
right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you said your husband had gotten sick too, and that
Yeah.
caused some
Yeah.
be-
Before. Yeah.
before that.
Before
Well,
that.
right. But we went back, and you told me, you said you had multiple affairs
Affairs.
because you
Yes.
didn't care.
I think I remember. I remember not caring. I just wanted. I don't. I think I was crying for help
Help,
because I
right?
just didn't care. I didn't care. And also, what I realized is hurt people hurt
Hurt
people.
people,
So
right?
my mother hurt me. I hurt my husband.
Right. Because
I
you said he
remember
was a good
he was
man.
a good man, a humble man. He couldn't lie. He couldn't steal. I mean, Mark was just. He was
Hurt.
really. God bless me with a good man, and that's where my shame and regret
Right,
comes in
right,
because I regret not
right,
appreciating him
right,
more.
right, right.
And he was a good father. And then another time I was listening to this person speaking, and a pastor, and he said, if you wrong
Buddy,
somebody and you have a chance to ask forgiveness and say I'm sorry, then do it
go
while you
back,
can.
right,
So I'm crying, and I remember going up to him. By this time he was bedridden,
right,
because he
right. You
had a
took care of him
stroke.
for like 15 years.
Yeah, and then he had MS, and
Couldn't,
I
right,
just said, I'm sorry, Mark. I'm so sorry. I've been unfaithful. I'm so sorry. And he just reached over to my hand, and just as kind and as gentle, he
gentle.
said, "It's okay."
It's okay.
Because I didn't know if he was going to
The
cuss me
reaction,
out or if
right?
he
What
was going
his
to tell me you got
reaction
to
was going
go.
to be.
But just that gentleness
Hmm.
that I remember, because it stopped me from crying. Because I
Right,
mean,
right,
I
right,
was, whew, and just as gentle. He said, "It's okay." So,
right. So,
yes,
so your pain, your addiction, all the things you did, it stemmed from what you went through as a child.
from that one lie, I believe. I believe that one lie just couldn't.
You just couldn't.
It couldn't. It just. I felt not wanted. Like
Right.
I didn't belong. And then no matter what I did, it just wasn't pleasing enough. So you
Right.
grow up with all that inside
That
you, and then
resentment.
the
Right.
hurt.
Right. And you told me like you could get like affirmation from your mother. It was like
Yes, I remember that too.
nothing you did
Yes.
pleased her. You told me once she was moving and she wanted to leave you behind,
Yeah.
but
So.
because you had contributed
Hmm.
monies to the house, you
Yeah.
told her no,
I'm going.
you're
I'm
going
going. I didn't have nowhere to
to
go
go.
because
Right.
I had moved out. Finally, I just knew I had to leave. I had to leave. So my friend and her mother, a beautiful woman, Dolores Williams, she took me into her house. I was able to graduate from high school, and she just showed me a different life. She showed me. Her family would get together. There would be no arguments. My family argued and
All
fought
the
all the time.
time. Right.
It was always friction, but she showed me a difference. She would take me to Cape Cod, Martha's
Wow.
Vineyard, so
Right.
she opened my world
She gave you a
to a
different
different,
perspective,
yes,
right? Because
yes,
you are from Puerto Rico,
yes,
but you moved to
to
Boston where you grew
Boston.
up, and then you migrated to South
And
Florida
I'm
where
here,
you've been
yes,
for like what, 20
20
years?
years, yeah,
Wow, yeah. And
yes.
also your mother lived here, and that's why you came.
Yes, actually, I came here because she was here. Because once my husband's mother passed, because I love my mother. You know, a lot of people say my mother-in-law is. Not, I had a beautiful
For
mother-in-law.
mother-in-law,
Oh, I was blessed. She was. She. That's where Mark got it from. This woman didn't lie. She didn't. You know, she couldn't
right. She
even
was
say a
just
bad word. Like,
right. She was always loved.
yes,
And I think that's what God did. He gave
gave
you
me.
somebody, a mother
Yes,
that wasn't biological,
yes,
but he gave you a mother who would love you for who you were.
yes. So
So you still
yes.
had love, and even though it wasn't from
But yeah,
your
remember, I still wore that mask because
yes,
they thought, you know, because my marriage was 13 years before the drugs and the
wow, right.
infidelity. So they thought, and then when he passed, that was
Still
I remember
devastated,
because
yeah.
everybody would say, "Oh, you were so good. You were a good wife," you know, and
But
that
they
would
did
just,
tear you
oh,
apart
like I would
because
just say, "Oh, I wish they wouldn't say that," because they didn't know,
the
you
real
know,
right,
the
like you
real
said,
Ida.
right.
Yes,
Ida by
yeah,
day, the
and by
banker, and
night,
Ida by
yeah,
night, the
just not,
crackhead.
yes,
Right.
yes. So
You know it
it
is.
is
That's
what
what
it
you
is.
told me.
Yes,
Right. And I am wow, I am so amazed
yeah.
at how
So,
honest you are because
oh,
so
yeah,
many people are still walking around with masks
yes,
covering shame and hurt and pain
yes,
and
yes.
wow, wow.
And it's amazing how God just gets us to. I would never know that I'd be here. Our pastor, and I think because our pastor really speaks the truth.
Yes, he does.
And I'm
Yes, he
just so blessed
does.
to be a member of
Of
Christ Center Community
community.
Church because I have to, you know, and his family, his oh my goodness, and
Yes,
and God has placed some beautiful women in my life that are loving, you know, that are
yes,
loving.
yes.
I can't say because you know, you don't know who loves you, and
Right, of
my
course.
mother had a hard life, so I think it was hard for her
Right,
to
because you said she
show
was also
love. Yes.
abused.
So the first time, the last time, right before she passed, she asked me to sit next to her, and she just stroked my hand, and to me, I think that was her
It's a
way of
way of
telling
saying,
me I
please
do love.
forgive me.
Yes,
I
yes,
love
that
you.
was her way of just
Right,
you know.
right.
But yeah, so I've been on a journey, but I'm looking forward to my past is my past. It's over.
Right.
I had
You
to
had to
finally, yes, release
release
it.
it in order for you to
It's
get,
yes,
you know, I mean,
yes.
wow,
I'm just looking forward to what God, and if,
has,
like I said, if you've been through something, give it to God. Give it to
right,
God. Just ask God to,
help you to relinquish.
forgive. Yeah, ask for forgiveness. I just receive him, you know, like receive him, because he will start that healing process. I'm
Process.
65. It took me a while, you
Yes,
know.
that's
It
a
took me a
long time
while.
to carry so much
Yes,
hurt and pain.
yes,
And you know, like you told me, you said when you were on drugs so heavily, it took somebody from your office who noticed
did notice. Yes,
right the change in you.
mm.
You were a functioning addict.
Addict.
Like
Yes,
so many people, again, some people function and some people can't. You're
yes.
working in the banking system, and somebody took notice and told you
And
whatever
said,
you're doing,
yes, you need to stop.
you need to
You need to
stop
stop,
it.
because I look like a zombie. Well, I'm telling you, I looked horrible. I have a picture too right before I stopped. And then I just remember asking God, I can't do this anymore. So I got a calendar. And then I would put a circle on the dates that I didn't use. And then I would put an X on the days that I
That you
did
did
use. And then
use.
one day I looked at the calendar, and it was more circles than it. And I said, "Okay,
You need
God,
to
I
stop.
can do this. I
Yes,
can do
yes,
this." You
yes,
know. And
yes.
then yes,
And God
so
gave you,
then that was it.
and that is so amazing. You didn't have to go into treatment or
I
anything.
did went into a program one time. I was
Okay.
on a binge, and my mother-in-law lived with us for that, and I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
care. That's how much I didn't care.
Care.
It was a New Year's. I remember I was on a binge with a friend of mine's, Natalie, her name, and they went out looking for me because I didn't come home.
Wow.
I didn't come home, and I was married and had children, and I was so into the drugs that I didn't come home. So they went looking for me, and they were mad at everybody that I was with, but a friend of mine's, but it wasn't them, it was me.
That's
You
right,
know,
that
it
was your
me, it was my
choice.
pain. And Miss Lois one time asked me, what made me get into drugs? Why did I, you know? And I couldn't answer her. I couldn't answer, but I can answer her now. It was pain.
Yes,
It was
medicating.
pain.
You were
It was
trying
pain.
to find a substitute,
Yes.
something that could
Yes.
medicate you, so
Yes.
you could
Just to,
forget. And
yeah.
you know, so many times I've heard that story. Why?
Yeah.
Because it
It's
took the
only
pain
temporary,
away.
yeah. And
Yes.
that pain's
But
only
when
temporary.
and my brother, he said this. He said it took the pain away for a little while,
Yes.
but what causes the addiction is trying to get to that first high again.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you keep
And you
going and you
can't,
keep
yeah,
going
going,
because you can
yeah.
never reach that again.
Yes. Yes, and you can't.
You
You
can't
can't.
find it.
And I've been blessed that I've lost a lot of friends.
Yes, to
Yeah,
drugs.
I've lost a lot
Right,
of friends.
right. And
Yes.
you told me, and see, this is God was always with you because you
Yes.
said you would always pass this church and it would tug at your heart.
Yes. And then when Mark got sick, he started getting sick, and his health was getting worse. I asked God, I said, God, I need a church. I need a support, you know. And he led me to Palm River. And it was that was before it was, you know, the other church. But it was Palm River. And then from there, when I rededicated myself to him, you know. So now I've learned that it has to be him. It's all about God. It's all
Right,
about
right,
God. Like you said, it's not about your children.
Not
You
about
just give it to him.
That's right.
And he is so willing to
Just embrace us.
take it over. Yes,
Right.
yes. And I've had moments with him, you know, like when my younger son started getting he's been diagnosed with bipolar, and he was starting. And I remember just saying, God, I need you, you know. And this song, I forget the name of the song, but it says, come to my feet or something like that. And I remember, like, I felt like I was, like he was right, like Jesus is
Was
right
right
there, and I
there
was
with you.
right there at his feet.
And
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
I know
Yes,
how you
oh
feel.
my
Yes.
goodness, so,
How God
yes.
is, no matter what we're going through, no matter how bad it
No
is,
matter, yes.
you it's like when you call out to him,
Yes.
it's like you just
You feel him.
yes,
Yeah,
like the
feel him.
embrace, like the
You
embrace.
do, yeah.
And you know, there's nobody like Jesus,
Nobody.
nobody like him.
No.
And I am so glad that he touched you. And
Yes.
I know now, and I feel the weight, because it was a weight that I was carrying with you, because like I said yesterday when we talked, all we could do is, before you even got halfway through, we were both crying, and we just started praying.
But it gets better. I mean,
Yes.
we cry because the Holy Spirit
Yes,
fills us.
yes.
But it's not that, because I say, God,
No.
I can't
Yes,
give my testimony
yes.
boo-hooing
Right,
all the
right,
time.
right.
You know, I got to be
Be
able to get,
speak.
you know, give me the strength
Strength,
to,
yes.
so like I said, I look forward to the journey.
Yes,
I
and
want to
it's
win souls
yes,
for
and
God's
trust me,
kingdom.
this,
Yes.
what you did
Yes.
today,
Yes.
it will free
And
somebody.
that's what I said when I left. I
Yes.
said, God, I want to win souls for this
Yes.
kingdom. And then this happened.
Yes.
And I said, okay, I'm going to be obedient.
Yes.
I'm going to be obedient.
Right. And I always
Yes.
say this, God gave me this platform for this purpose.
Yes.
He
Yes.
gave me the platform, he gave me the name. And I made a promise to him, and I said, I will open this up to any and anyone who wanted to come on and share, to be a
Yes.
blessing
To someone.
to somebody.
Yes, to
And
someone.
if you just touch one person, like Pastor Eve says, who is your one?
Yes.
If you just touch one person, you have done what God has called you to do. And that is my mission. If I just give one person the
Amen.
ability to
Amen.
touch one
Yes.
person who can say, that's my one,
Yes.
then I have done what God has called me
Amen.
to do.
Amen. Yes.
I tell you, Miss Ada, what a blessing
Yes.
you have been.
feel
this
free. I
morning.
do.
I know you do. I see your
I
countenance
just
has
feel
changed.
peace, and that's my
Yes.
thing. I choose peace. I
Yes.
choose peace in my
Yes.
life, no matter. Like I said, I still have my son, my youngest son, and that's been a hard thing too,
Yes.
But I know God got
God
him.
has already
God
taken
got
that.
him. I just feel it. I feel it. I believe that God got
Yes.
him.
Yes. God has
He's
it.
he's taking a
Yes.
yes,
Oh my, what a
yes.
weight
So,
lifted.
but yeah.
Oh my,
So
yeah, because I was carrying it
yeah,
with you. But anyway,
yes.
Miss Ada, what a blessing you have
Well,
been
thank
this
you, thank
morning.
you.
And
Yes.
I
So
thank you that you could come on and be
yes,
so open with
yes.
such
I had to
intimate details.
had to take that mask off.
Yes, and
Yes.
the
So
mask is gone. And
yeah.
C4, thank you
Yes.
all.
Thank you
Wow,
for
please,
being
let's go.
here. Yes.
Thank you guys for coming, and
Thank you.
always
Um.
my production team, Alejandra.
Yes.
Of course,
Thank you.
we have one who's missing in action, Sebastian
Yeah.
and John, the new guy.
Yes.
I'm so blessed to
Yes.
be blessed like I am.
Mm-hmm.
And God gave me this song for you. I normally choose a song from a CD I recorded in
Uh-huh.
Nashville a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
But whilst I was praying, God gave me this song, and I'm like, okay, God, what a strange song. And He said, I just want you to sing it, no
Wow.
music.
Uh-huh.
Just use the voice that I gave you.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm like, what a strange song.
Yeah.
And in my spirit, it said, just like the Holy Spirit said, research it. And when I looked up the song, it's written by Tommy Dorsey.
Mm-hmm.
And the song was written when his son and his wife died. His wife died in childbirth along with the
Baby.
child.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm like, oh God. And then I remember what you said, how
Yeah.
you had 3 abortions. And I'm like, God just granted you a reprieve.
Yes. Yes.
You're free.
Yes.
The babies are free.
Yes.
Amen.
And I will see them. I will
Yes, you
see
are.
them.
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are.
I look forward to that day. Yes.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, Lord, I am weary.